everyone, this is Roberta. I'm back just to play around making a background to cut into ATCs that can be finished. I'm going to add them in with a couple of the swaps that I have going on. So I was going to start with a pastel-y colored background and just have fun with it. And my paintbrush was in the water, so I'm just going to dry it off a little bit. And there's no particular pattern or anything with the way that I'm going to be painting this. It's just going to be a mishmash. And then I'll be adding other colors as I go. And I want to leave some white spots so that the other colors will be able to come through. And it looks like I got a little bit too much of this color, more than I was wanting, so I'm going to add it in my excess paint book on this page. Let me move this out of the way. When I put it in the excess paint page, I used to, when I first was using it, not really try to plan. I would just scribble it off, wipe it off. Now I actually try to plan it so it comes with some kind of a pattern or design so that I can add to it as I go along. And when you watch my videos, if it seems like they're taking too long or if I'm talking too slow, and I don't know that I actually talk as slow as it seems on my YouTube videos, but when I watch them it sounds like I'm talking just really slow, and I think it might be the way that it uploads, because I only have the cheapest internet setting. I think it's 15 megabytes, and so my service is only $15 a month because I use the slowest one, so that might be why. But what you can do is go down into the little menu bar of the YouTube video itself and click on the little gear, and that gear will give you different options, and one of them will be the speed, and it'll have normal, 1.25, 1.5, and 2. And because the conversation seems so slow, if you put it on 1.5, you should be able to understand what's being said. And if you're not really interested in the conversation, you can always just click it on up to number 2, and what happens is it goes double speed. It shows YouTube that you're watching the video, and you're able to get all the content just in half of the amount of time. And I do this when I watch YouTube videos, adjusting the speed setting so that I'm able to understand what's being said and understand what's being shown, so I can watch the fun happening, get a guesstimate of what the techniques are, and learn from it without having to spend a lot of time. And for those who put out YouTube videos as part of a way to earn some income, by doing it at a faster speed, watching the whole thing, they're able to make a little bit of money that they earn from having their subbies watch their videos. So that's just a little something, a little bit of information for you if you feel like you don't want to spend a lot of time watching the whole YouTube when they seem sometimes to just be dragging on. So I like to do that because that way I'm able to watch quite a bit more. And I do, I watch a lot every day, so because I like to learn, I like to get new ideas, and I like to be supportive of the people that I am a subby of. And I probably have 600 people that I subscribe to. Some of them are crafting people, some are off-grid people, and that's people who are trying to live without electricity and water and all that people get in the city. There are a group of us who prefer to try to find a way to live this lifestyle as our forefathers did, in a way where they're living a self-sustaining life by using as many natural products as possible, so that they're not having to pay for the services like we in the city are obligated to. If you live in the city, you have to be on water and power, sewage, trash, and all that. But if you live out in the country or on the outskirts of a city, you can get by without using a lot of those. And so that's what off-grid is. And that is my hope and prayer one day, that I'll be able to finally win my disability case so that I'm able to buy a large enough chunk of land that I can build my own cabin, raise my own livestock, which would be, goats and chickens and rabbits, have a couple of horses and some pigs. I love bacon, so I have to have some pigs. Plus, they're just adorable. Even though they're stinky and messy, they are smart and they are a lot of fun. They're just adorable, especially as little piglets. But I also watch considerably a lot of other different ones. I like to watch a lot of the Christian ones and families. So most of them at this point are about crafting. But the way that I'm able to watch so many is simply by making them play faster, so that I'm able to get a lot more content in a less amount of time of watching. Okay, and I don't want that yellow. I want a more pastel-y yellow. But I don't. That's yellow flame. I don't know what happened to my pastel yellow. So I guess I'll be going with this one. After I get this painted, I'm going to do some stenciling with some punchinella. And punchinella is the correct term for sequin waste, but a lot of people don't know that, and they just call it sequin waste. So when I'm talking about punchinella, they're a bit confused because they don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to use some punchinella, which is sequin waste. I bought a roll on the internet, so I have quite a bit. It was 50 feet, and I've given most of it away. I give some away in almost every one of my swaps that I do. It's another thing I'm trying to focus on is not saying all the time. I don't know why I do that. Okay, I don't need to paint the whole thing, but what I'm going to do right now is dry it a little bit, and then I'll be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back. I dried it up, and I'm going to do some stamping before I do the stenciling. And so I'm using the black ink pad and just random stamps out of this set. Most of these will be covered up, so I'm not too worried about what I'm using. But I do want to try to get some spring theme ones, so plants and little critters are going to be my go-to. I'm also trying to remember to keep it in the view of the camera, because my camera is up above my shop light. And I really like my farm animal ones. These are like my favorites. And I'm not doing a fresh stamp. I'm going to stamp on and stamp off twice. I'm going to do each one one time, making sure I rotate. And then if I have a lot more empty space, I will go back and start over with some more. I love this little bird. That one's a cute one to paint. Tiny, but it's perfect for a little inchy. This rose. This snail. Not really sure what kind of flower that one is, but it's pretty. I'll make sure I get some ink. I think I need some re-inker for my pads. I store these upside down so the ink is always close to the top, but they are drying up. I don't know how old this particular one is. This is not one that I bought. This is one that somebody gifted to me. But it is drying up. Okay, I think that is enough. I'm done with that. Let me put my ink. And I use makeup sponge, and I just put it on the bottom so I don't have to get a new one every time. And I'll wash these off later, so I'm just going to put them back in here. Move them out of the way. Okay. Now I'm going to get my punchinella, and I actually have quite a few bags of a lot of punchinella that I've made, which has different patterns, because what I did is I took a couple pieces, and I crossed them over, and every time you cross them over you get different kind of patterns. So this one is like an oval shape, and it has little tiny openings on the sides of the oval. That is an acrylic with stars, an acrylic with hearts, just punchinella. This one is with the skinnier oval, more like an egg shape. This one is big round flowers. So I have lots of different ones that I can choose from. And then this is my newest one, and what I did is I took a piece of punchinella for the top and some of my lemon bag mesh for the bottom, and I just stamped through it. And actually this is the top. You can see I didn't write top on it. Let me do that real quick. When I make them, I try to make sure that I write what the top is, because the top gets more of the paint on it and the bottom is clean, and you can see some of it where it seeped onto part of the punchinella, but that's okay. But this is the top to stencil through, and the reason I chose the lemon mesh part to be the first one for it to go through is because it's a much finer item for the paint or the ink to go through, so I want it to hit that before the punchinella. So let me pull out the ones I'm going to use. This is one. I always like the flower one, but this time I'm just going to use plain punchinella. So these are the two I'm going to use, along with, this one is lemon bag mesh and also my drywall tape. And with the lemon bag mesh, I also cut a part of the lemon bag. It has the plastic on it, but on the side where you can feel the mesh, I just kind of fold it in half, and I use my finger and I dip it in the ink, and you get the line mesh very faint, so I'm going to use that one as well. Let me get a different color of ink. I think I'm going to go with the teal. And I'm going to do this one first because it's with ink. Make sure I have it. Alright. And you just get this little light line. Depending on how much you press in your ink pad, it will determine how much ink you get on. And you can do double and triple ink and even more to make sure you get the ink off. This is a Studio G ink pad I got from Joann's about a year and a half ago, and it is still very inky. And this is not one that's been sitting upside down. This one has actually been right side up. It's just that juicy. It doesn't need to be upside down for the ink to be kept close to the top of the pad. It's just there because it's full. And it's not overly full where it over inks your stamps, but it's nice. So this adds a nice texture, and my suggestion is that from now on, everything that you look at it with the thought of, how could I use that in my crafting? Can I use it as a stencil? Can I use it as a stamp? You know, can I use it as ephemera? I mean, this could be cut up. You know, wash the ink off if you want, but then you could cut it up and you could gesso or glue it down or tape it down and then put gesso or paints over it, and it would give you added texture. And I'm not going to do any, you know, layering on this background piece because this is simply to give so that the recipient can finish it as an ATC if they choose to. I'm just going to wipe off the ink, get a little bit of water, sorry about that. I wear my robe in this outfit when I do my crafting, so it's the only one that gets all painty. So, just so you guys not thinking I'm wearing the same clothes every time you see me in my videos. This is my crafting outfit. I don't have a washer, so I can only wash clothes maybe twice a month or so. I wash most of my things by hand, and sometimes I might go visit Mom and get some stuff done over there. But for my crafting, I'm always wearing this outfit. Alright, so now I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to use some paint, and I clear my space over here on my craft mat here, the Crofton one. I use it for laying out my paint and my tools. You can see all my mess over there. But I use that to put my paint down to put it inside of my sponge, because you have to pounce the ink or the paint into it so it's dry on the outside but still loaded with some ink on the inside. So as you do it, if it has the dry part on the top, you're just going to get it to stencil through. But if you have a blob of paint, even if it's a tiny blob here and smooth here, the blob is going to go through to the bottom and kind of smear. So I take a sponge And I take some ink, and this one has some water in it. I was spraying a little bit of spray of water every time I'd use these, and then I found out it was just retaining too much of the water, so I just quit it. Okay. So I have some green, and you can see that it's really wet right on this side. It's in where I could do the stenciling on this side, but not here, so I have to pounce it. So that's what I'm going to do over here. Pounce it in. And then just randomly going to put some green. And this is with the punchinella and the lemon mesh. I'm just trying to see if, oh, you can't see it. It's too far up. Right here you can see the lines from the lemon bag mesh, and then you can see the circle from the punchinella. And I just love the way that looks. It's a whole new stencil pattern, and it's homemade. Didn't cost me much. The punchinella cost me $10 for two 50-foot rolls. So I'm set for punchinella for quite a while, and I'm able to bless other people with it. I was selling it, but I can't sell it anymore because I'm on aid because I'm disabled and I can't work. So I just gift it. I try to gift enough generally where people can make their own, so the piece that they get, they could use it as it is, or they could, you know, cut it in half, cross it over, and make a different stencil. I don't want to put too much of this, but I do want to make sure it's in enough places that it's on each of the ATCs that I cut. And I'm not sure in which way I'll be cutting this, so I'm just trying to put a little bit all over. Now see, this little bit here smudged a little bit because it was a little too wet. Let's see. There we go. And you always make sure that you go off on the edges as well, so that it's not always on the inside. You want it to look like it's pattern paper that has been cut. And you get that effect if you do go off the edge. Okay, I'm going to put this in the water. I don't have another color that I could do over the green, so I'm just going to stick it in my water to soak it before I can go wash it. I'm going to put this one to the side, the mesh to the side. Pull up the drywall mesh, and with this one I think I want to use some gold. Actually, first let me get rid of this extra green paint I have over here. If it's clean and not contaminated, I just try to scoop it up with my finger and stick it back in so I can reuse it. Let me clean that off. The other thing is you can mix the colors of your paint. Like if I use the gold, I could put any color I want to with it, and that would make it very interesting. So let me see. I think I'm going to go with looking for the one called watermelon. And I don't really think that'll go with it. Let me try a pink. Yeah, I think that'll go. This one is bright magenta. Just going to put a little dollop. And I know it's out of screen. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can show you. Just a little dollop of the magenta there. trying to reset my camera. Alrighty. And then some of this gold. Let me get a sponge. I'm just going to use my sponge to mix them. I'm not going to use any other tool. There's no point to get something else dirty. So I have some of the gold. Mix it with this magenta. Create a new color. Put the top on. And this is somewhat loaded, so I'm going to have to be careful as I do it. So I'm just going to barely tap and just go over a few times. And I see a hair. The other thing I'm trying to do is make these videos faster, so I'm not taking as long. So I'm going to try to speed it up. Sometimes you can kind of plan where you're going to put a color, because the yellow with the pink, if it was to show through a little, would look like an orangey color more than the pink. I don't know if that's in screen, where this is more orangey and this is more pink. So sometimes you can plan just so that you can see what colors you can create. Over the blue, it would turn more of a purpley or violet color. Alrighty, I think I've got enough. Maybe just a bit right here. I'm going to go ahead and load the rest of the paint on this, and I'm going to, with the rest of the paint, which I just picked up off the mat, I'm going to spritz it with some water. And the purpose of doing that is, while I'm still crafting, this paint is going to stay wet so that I'm able to put it in my excess paint book when I'm done working on this. Okay, now I'm going to be working with punchinella, or sequin waste as most people know it to be called. I'm going to use some of my gesso from Daler Rowney. Look at all the pretty splatters on there. I have a sheet on my floor that's layered like 4 times under my craft area because I'm in an apartment and I don't want anything to get on the rug. And because it's protected, I just splatter, I don't worry. But sometimes I will pull out my splatter box and put the item in the box and then do the splattering. Okay, new sponge. These have been washed out, even though you see color on them. They've been washed. This is ink, but this is paint. Alright, I'm going to put it on my palette over here. And the interesting thing with the gesso is that not only is it good for priming your paper or your canvas, it is excellent to use as a resist or to splatter white paint or to add paint to your project. And I'm adding gesso so that it'll be a surprise as a resist for the recipients, because they probably won't expect it. Now this is too wet for me to start doing this, so I have to pounce it down so it goes inside the sponge so it'll work effectively for me. I don't want it to bleed through the back. So I'm going to add some more and just keep pouncing it till it's loaded. It's kind of like loading a paintbrush. Okay, and you can kind of go over a couple of times if you want it to be a little thicker. And because it's been pounced in, it's fairly subtle, which is what I want. I don't want it to be overwhelming because I'm actually going to put some white splatter on this. Try to make sure that I'm in screen. I can't tell. I don't know how to set my camera up with my computer so that I'm able to see what is actually being filmed on my camera. I also have not learned how to edit my YouTube videos so that I can add music. I mean, I've done it one time to my silent YouTube video that I'd made, but it didn't allow me to add more than just that one sequence of music. And I was wanting to add a continuous or a loop of that music, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. I finally figured out how to merge videos together because the camera was shut off and only allow me to film for like 15-20 minutes at a time, and then it would shut off. So I finally did learn how to put them together, so that's good. Now I just have to learn how to be more concise in what I'm filming and what I'm talking about so that they're shorter. Because generally mine are about an hour and most people don't want to watch for an hour, which I understand. And that's why my suggestion is to put the speed of it up to 1.5 or 2. If you don't want to hear me talking and you just want to see what I'm doing, that's fine, because most of you already know how to do most of these simple techniques or steps, whatever you want to call them. Most of this is not new to any of you. But if you just want to see what I'm creating, then you just pop that speed up to 1.5 or 2, and you'll be able to get it all in a timely fashion. Alright, so what do you guys think of that so far? Does it look pretty good? I like it. I love it. I think it's very pretty. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out white to do a splatter. Actually, I think I want to do some modeling paste. So I'm going to do little bits of modeling paste, and this is paper. It's from a die cut that I got from Janice Wetstein, and I've used it with my glass beads, so a couple of them have those little tiny glass beads in it. But right now I'm going to use my homemade, oops, sorry, my little butterflies that I made. Hold on. My homemade modeling paste, texture paste, whatever you want to call it. That's what this is. It was made with baking soda and glue, school glue, kids school glue, and white acrylic paint. And so this was not made with baby powder. I don't have any. But I do have those really big bags of baking soda, which I buy at Sam's Club. And I use baking soda to clean, because I use all natural items when I clean the house. So I use vinegar, lemon, and baking soda. And I use baking soda to brush my teeth. And sometimes I use baking soda to wash my hair, and vinegar to give it a condition. Sounds really weird, but that's what some off-grid people use in place of shampoos and conditioners because of the chemicals in them. It takes a while for your hair to get used to that treatment, because by using shampoo you're removing your natural oils from your hair all the time. Okay, so let me get this, and actually I need to get rid of the rest of my gesso over here. So I can't put it back in the gesso thing because that is too hard to open. I'm going to put the gesso on this page. And it'll act as a resist the next time I do something on this page. I'm going to pick some more of this one up because it's thick. Just kind of spread it out so it's more even. And then let that dry. Put this in water. Okay, now for this, I'm going to add just little bits of this here and there, not too much. I'm just going to scoop it up with the card and hope I'm in frame. That's always a problem. Am I in frame with this while I'm filming or not? And not too much, just a little bit wherever I think a new ATC might be. And then just scrape it in. Lift it up and move on. And I really love this texture paste, the homemade. It's pretty awesome. I really like it. It gives nice texture. It holds up pretty well. Let's move this around. And I like to use these are for the front of a card, these die cuts. But I use it as a stencil because it works great. My items that I use when I do the stenciling is not too watery, so I don't have to worry about the paper getting wet and coming apart. And I let it dry. I don't wash it off. And if it gets too clogged up in the holes at some point, which you can see they're starting to fill up, which is natural, it happens on regular stencils, then I can just get new ones. Whether I go out and buy the die, or I do a swap, or I simply ask the person who made these for me in the first place, hey, could you cut me a few? Do you want to do a swap? And that way I have some more that I can keep using. And it doesn't have to just be this particular kind. It could be any pattern. I have one with trees, and that would be great to use as well. And I'm just scraping it off of the end here where it got on, because I can pick it up and keep using it. I really love how this is turning out. Alrighty, I'm going to just clean this off in a dry way, not a wet way. I leave my spoon in there, broke the handle off so it'll fit better, so I can just quickly spoon it out or stir it up as needed. And that's going to last a long time for me. You barely use any when you're doing that. So what do you guys think so far? They look great? Alright, now I'm going to take this and just kind of wipe it. And I'm not going to be too rough. On the back I'm going to do the rubbing. And you can see how the little circles are starting to fill in. And then I just set it aside to dry. And it'll dry up for me. And she gave me a bunch of them, Miss Janice. And my camera cut off. So I was going to show you some of the other ones that Janice Whitstone had given me of her die cuts that I use as a stencil with ink or paint or modeling paste. I love this one with the leaves. That's so pretty. And I love the ATC I made with that. Let me show you which one it is. Let's see. This one here I made with this one. You see the leaves? I did them in orange, and then I did pink all behind it. And I just did it with my paint, my acrylic paints, dabbing it on the sponge and then doing that. And then I used a purple ink pen, outlined the leaves with squiggly lines. And I die cut my drywall tape into a heart. And it has adhesion on the back, but I also went over it to make it stay down. And then I drew around it with some marker, and then I did the little white dots, and then I stamped on it, and then I did some embossing up here. Love that one. Alrighty, so then also this one, which reminds me of a soccer ball, even though it's hexagons. The trees, and the white ones you see I have not yet used, but that doesn't mean I won't. I love that one. This is the birch trees. And then this one. And then I got this cross and the shatter one from another of my swap friends. And sad to say I can't remember, and I apologize. If it was you, let me know. But I like to use those as stencils. Okay. Now I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. And actually, let me go ahead and do the splatter on this. Let me put my butterflies away. I was trying to make butterflies for my spring tag, and I made all these. And this one, which I really love how this one turned out. I made all these for my spring tag, which I cannot, they didn't go with it, so I ended up putting a dragonfly on it. I have no idea where my spring tag went to. I can't find it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put some splatter on here. Okay. Need to go wash. Actually, I'll just put this in here, not wash it off. Just give this some texture by wiping it off. It doesn't have to be down and smooth. Sometimes the sticking up texture is just as much fun. Okay. And I'm thinking, I already have enough white on here. I don't really think that I need any more white. So I'm trying to think of what color to splatter. Black or brown. Let's see. No, maybe a bold purple. This is one of my favorite purple colors, Wild Iris, and I think I'm going to go with that. That one I think will look great. And get my splatter paintbrush. It's called the fan brush. I was thinking I never used my punchinella, but I did with that very faint gesso. It doesn't take me long to forget stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put some over here on my palette. Should actually do this where you guys can see it, right? I'm not worried about it being super clean. That's not important. If any gunk gets on there, well then I just consider that additional texture. And this is my water. This one is my glycerin and water, which I found out spraying glycerin water on my sore. I fell down the other day. I tripped and fell over a 1/2-inch thick metal bar that was sticking up out of the ground like this high, and I tripped and fell on it on Friday because I couldn't see, and it was actually pretty deep. It doesn't look so bad now, and my whole knuckle area was bruised. and I didn't want it sticking to the tissue paper, so I just spritzed it with some glycerin and never stuck, so that was pretty nice. I know when I put other things like a rag or something, it ends up sticking and then it ends up pulling off the scab that's trying to form. So the glycerin was pretty sweet for that. I think I would consider that another of my off-grid home remedies for dealing with something like that. Alrighty. And this is fairly loaded with paint, so I'm just going to go off a little bit and try to leave some of this off. It's fairly loaded. Okay. Oh, I love it. So pretty. It's always really pretty when you first do it. Excuse me. After it dries, it kind of goes dull, but still very pretty. And splatter is getting on all my craft stuff, but I really don't care. I'm not a neat freak as far as that kind of stuff goes. Most of my paint bottles and tools have paint splatter on it. Alright, that's the finishing touch. I hope you guys enjoyed this YouTube tutorial, or whatever you want to call it. Just me having fun creating ATC backgrounds to gift in my recipe swaps. I hope my lady friends enjoy it. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the thumbs up that you like the video. And please leave a comment to tell me what you think of this. Have a blessed day, ladies and gentlemen.